Today, my name is Unknown Dareus, and I'll be talking about my psychosis story and the story that honestly changed my life, and a story that I learned so many things and things I want to share about today. So I'm gonna get right into it. So a few months back, it was my birthday month of May. Well, it started April 30th, crazy enough. And right before May, I was on the past few years smoking, drinking, all that good, all that bad stuff. And pretty much uh, April 30th was the day where I almost felt like I lost my life. And it's pretty much when I came home, I was hanging out with my girlfriend, we had a little, a little date, a little time together. And pretty much when I came back, I had a few, disposable vapes that I had that I was smoking on. And I remember I would take like a lot of hits right before bed, tons of hits to the point where I was like, okay, like I want to go to sleep. But I took a really big hit where I started seeing things like hallucinations. I ended up laying down on the ground just so I could like kind of feel my body. I could feel my body, just my whole soul just coming out. And I was just laying there looking at the ceiling, just up like, man, like what's going on? Then I started feeling my breathing was gone too, like it was starting to lose. So I was like, you know what, like I got to do what's right. So I went up. I think I tried to first grab my phone, try to text my mom, and it's like it felt like someone was like pulling me, like nope, you can't get to your phone. So I went to my mom's room and I was like, yo, mom. And then she was just like sitting there like confused, like why do I look like, so like I look like I'm in danger. So what I did was I was like, let me just show her what I got. I grabbed the bag, dump it out, and all you see is all my vapes, all the stuff I was smoking on. And pretty much what happened was she was just confused on why I had all that. She was not really more like mad or disappointed. She was more worried like, okay, like, are you okay? Because I was talking and I could barely gasp for air. I was telling her like, I don't know what's going on. Like I told her like, right now, like I'm high. I'm not, I'm not really me right now. And she just told me to lay down. She put a little wet rag on my head and she pretty much was just like, okay, breathe in this bag. And she said, do you need me to call the ambulance? And I was just like, I guess. Like, I didn't know what to really do. I was just like, you know what, like if I had to go in the ambulance to save my life, then I'll go to that deep measure. But it mainly hit me where her face, she seemed so scared for her life. I never wanted to ever see my mom like that. And like to this day, I'm like, man, it was it was definitely like it was a hard thing to see, especially your parent or your mom, someone who takes care of you all their life, that just mainly seen you go through something like that. So I ended up, you know, going into the living room. The EMTs came inside the house. They were like, checking my eyes, checking to see if I was okay. And then they helped me down the stairs. And all I remember was it's just being in the ambulance car, just looking at the EMT, looking outside. And it felt like I was about to like lose my life. Like I didn't know what was going on. Like I had no control of anything that was going on. And once I got to the hospital bed, all I remember was is them taking my blood drawn. They were taking my blood. And I remember I was watching TV and I seen like a little, I think another EMT just like watching me. And through that, I don't know or remember, but this is where the crazy part happens. While I was asleep, well, they said from what I heard was that I was in a coma for like a little while. I could be wrong, but I barely remember myself. But I remember just seeing darkness and I didn't see anything, but all I just felt was like, it's like a mysterious thing, like reach into my heart and make it start pumping. It's like, like something just like came into my heart and was like, do, 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 do. And then I want to say it felt like 5 minutes later, I woke up in a different room and it was like a healing room. And I see my girlfriend right there and she was right in front of me. And she was just like, there's a lot that happened to you, but I can't tell you. I don't know that's all I remember. She was just saying like, oh, you were going through a lot and you just need to sit here and heal. And I thought I was like about to pass away. Like I thought I was done. It felt like my mind was just floating. It felt like, my words weren't speaking right. My memory was gone. I couldn't barely remember a lot of things. And then I remember I asked for one thing, one simple thing that helped me, and I'll always remember this. I asked them, I literally asked them, do you have like a church person here? But I was meaning like a chapel. So what happened was they're like, yeah. They asked me, what do I believe in? I said, Christian. And I was like, okay. And then they're like, just hang tight. I want to say like 3 minutes later, there's like a chapel that, or it could be more, 3 minutes later or so, a chapel came in. He even told me, he said, you deserve a gold medal for even trying to request me in here, because not a lot of people request that. And I asked him, like, you know, am I going to be okay? And he said, well, let me ask you that. He said, what's going on? I told him, what I was doing. And he was like, pretty much all you're going to remember this is that just know on the other side it's a lot more greener, and you don't want to be on that other side right now. And just remember, this is paradise, and you're going to be okay. And he said, you're going to be strong, and you're going to hopefully faithfully get through this. And we talked for like a little bit. And then right before he left, I asked him one small favor, and I'll never forget this. I was like, do you think you can do a prayer for me? He's like, absolutely. He grabs my hand. I remember I was holding on for dear life, all emotions, and even right now it's hitting me. I was crying for dear life and just holding his hand while he was saying the prayer over my life. And I was just like, wow, like this is really happening inside my head. And I'm busy holding on like this. And last thing he said after the prayer, after I said amen, he clapped his hands. He's like, yep, he's in there. And I said, who's in there? And I was freaking out. I was like, who's in here? And he was like, God, like he's in you. He said, I feel him. And I said, well, what does he look like? And he kind of smirked a bit though. He said, do you really want to know? And I was like, yes, I want to know. He said, well, you are a believer, right? And I said, yes, I am. He said, that's your father, right? And I said, yeah. He said, well, if you want to go look at him, go look at his son. He's in the mirror whenever you get up. And I didn't really catch what he said. I was like, what does he mean by that? Next thing you know, I wake up again and I try to go straight to the bathroom and go see what he's talking about. And pretty much what he's saying is that if I want to know what he looked like, I'm a creation of him. I'm a creation of, my Lord and Savior. And that always stuck with me. And through then, in the psychosis, it made me believe that I was someone else. Like, I remember when I first came home, my mom brought me home, and she was just like, don't ever do any of that again, for one. And two, she said, what is on your mind? And I literally felt like I was like anyone. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, it felt like there was different personalities that were coming into my head and who I was. Like one moment I thought I was Jesus himself. I thought I was, one of my favorite rap artists. His name is Playboi Carti. I thought I was him. I started believing that. My mom was like, Dareus, like you are not, you're Dareus. Do you understand that? And I was like, yeah, I do, but I believe I'm these people as well. And she was like, I don't know if you need to go back to the hospital, but I agreed to go into a psych ward that put me in there for, I want to say like 48 hours. And when I was in there, first thing I grabbed was a Bible, and I kept it close by me. And I always remember my godfather, Terrence, he always tells me, keep it close by you and keep the book open and you'll rest peacefully. And when I was in there, like I kept on hearing a lot of like kind of scary things and the scary people in there, like the patients. Like I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. And they just kind of just had me, eat fruits. I even drank like, I want to say like 4 prune juices. And it was crazy because out of nowhere, they were trying to get me to sleep. Like I was up all night. They're like, Dareus, can you please go to your room and go to sleep? I was up doing push-ups. I was up drinking apple juice, fruit cups, chips. I was just doing all that. And they're like, we're dealing with someone who's like different and rare. And then I started telling them briefly, like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be at work. And they're like, where do you work at? And I was like, well, I work with my mom, like at this nursing facility, and I'm, working to get my CNA and, all that good stuff. And then also I worked at a burger spot, Shake Shack. And they're like, wow, like, they're like, oh, a nursing spot. They're like, nurses go to heaven. And I was like, oh, am I going to go to heaven? They're like, if you go to sleep. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, let me go to sleep. And then I remember going to sleep, and I had a dream of like seeing myself laying down on the bed, and it just seeing me just peacefully resting. And right before that, I seen a video showing Abraham Lincoln on the screen. And I was like, wow, why does Abraham Lincoln look so real? Like Abraham Lincoln, like I feel like he's like there with me. And once when I got out, they took my my vitals, and through then, man, like I started just thinking like, what is going on in my life? Like, did I like? It felt like I like went through like a time loop, because I started to think that like everything was in the future. Like, I don't know, like my mind was different. And then after that, they moved me to a different facility, and from what I know now, my mom, she didn't even, excuse me, she didn't even agree to where I was going. She was just like, why are they taking him to another facility without my consent? Which my mom had mostly the permission to say where I go. And where I went, there was just more patience there. And like, I was wondering, when am I gonna leave? And I ended up staying there for like, I wanna say another 2 days or so. And then bam, like my girlfriend picked me up, took me to go get some food. I'm talking about my managers at the time, friends and family, they're also worried about me. And it was very touching, because I never felt like I had that exact type of love before, because I would always be so harsh on myself. I'll always be very, what can I say, too tough on myself. And just seeing that love from my family and friends, and then reaching out, wanting to come over and take care of me. And these are people who I even met like, you know, years, only like a couple years or so. And it's just, now it's like, man, like my own Minnesota family's not here, but my California family, the way they just grouped together and tried to just make sure I was okay, like that's something I'll never forget. And, you know, through then I had to move away. I had to come back up to my home state, get back to my roots, get back on my feet. I lost my job, but lost my job due to like what I was going through. And now it feels like a fresh start, and it feels like I'm ready to be back on board. And I'm just very blessed just to be in a good space now. I'm getting better, therapy, going to church, doing anything that makes me feel like who I am. And it's overall it's just amazing. I'm lost for words. And I want to even thank even David for recognizing me when I first came up here. I always tell him like, man, like, that was probably one of the best moments of my life, because this is like post-psychosis, and meeting another creative person where I'm like, I love Cali. I was like, I don't really think there's a lot of creative things up in Minnesota like how I remembered it, but just meeting him, doing photo shoots, and just, doing all those things, that category, things that I love, it made me feel like Dareus again. And that's why I just keep to myself, and I call myself Unknown Dareus, because I see myself as a mysterious person who went through a lot and has also a disorder that's called misophonia that I've been kind of, going through these past few years. But I plan to conquer it, and I plan to, get over on it, and it doesn't define who I am. And I plan to beat that disorder so it's not around in my life. And I just want to thank everyone for just even coming out to even hear me. Even if you're watching, thank you for even just hearing me out. I tried to say this story so many times, and it came out in its own ways. But yeah, that's the story, and that's how it changed my life to where I am today.